It is the Savage Nation. Perfect song. Glad I picked it today. Glad you could be with me. So, what'd you tune in for? It's over. You got a hangover. You feel like a gorilla in a zoo on a Monday after people fed you candy corn. You want to listen for a few minutes and turn the show off and go back to your marijuana, your alcohol, your Prozac, your Hozac, your Mozac, your Tozac. You want to forget it all, right? Well, I'll give it to you in simple terms. Why did Romney lose? The 3 R's. Ryan, radio, and reasonableness. He lost on the 3 R's. He picked Ryan when he should have picked Rubio. He went on dumb radio shows. I don't know of one conservative radio show he ever went on. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. We looked it up. We could not find any evidence that Romney went on any radio shows. I know he wouldn't come on this show. If you know of a conservative radio show he was on, well, correct me. Ryan, radio, and reasonableness. He was too nice. He should have torn Obama to shreds on Obama's very real deficits and corruptions. He should have canceled the last 2 debates, seeing what the liberals are. He should have known what they would do to him. Instead, his idiot advisors told him to stop being so tough and become even more meek. Now, the fact of the matter is he had the worst campaign managers in American history. The Romney staff was the worst in history. His strategy team was led by a Stu Stevens and a Russ Schrieffer. They were the most absurd staff in the history of the Republican Party. Now, I have some questions for you. You ready for this? Did you not vote for Romney to prove a point? And let me tell you why I'm asking this. As you probably all know by now, 2 to 3 million fewer Republicans voted in this election. Okay? But here's a shocker. 10 million fewer Democrats voted in this election. So how did Obama win? How did Obama win? If there were 10 million fewer Democrats voting and there were 3 million fewer Republicans voting, can anyone give me the answer mathematically how that figures out? Well, there's another missing link. And that missing link is something noted even by the United Nations, which was we are the only Western nation that does not require a national ID to vote. Now, how many illegal aliens did Obama make into citizens with the passage of the so-called Dreamer Act? He said 1.3 million. That means it's probably closer to 2.5 or 3.2. And what's eerie is that that's almost the exact number of popular votes by which Obama beat him. You say, well, the illegals weren't allowed to vote. Who would have stopped them? You? The little old lady with tennis sneakers in the poll at the polling place would have stopped them. Are you crazy? I went to a polling place. It said vote Aki. I thought I lived in America. I didn't know we had become a bilingual nation. Now, again, I have to go back to a fundamental point that you may not know about me because many people turn me into Attila the Hun. I am the son of an immigrant. I am, in essence, a first-generation American. And what's interesting to me, it's almost eerily interesting, is that today is the publication date of my memoirs called Train Tracks. And you know who I feature on the back cover? It's a picture of my grandfather, who I never met because he came here and died, working his heart out so that his grandson, who he never met, could have a better life. And this book, Train Tracks, is heartbreaking for me because he fled the Bolsheviks of Russia. That's right. My grandfather, who fled the Russian Revolution to come here for a better life for his son, his daughter, and his grandchildren, who he never met, unfortunately, would probably be shocked to see that the very Bolshevik nation that he ran from is emerging here in the United States of America. And I want you to understand where I am coming from. Many of you think this is an extremist point of view, that Obama's really moderate, this is hysteria, this is alarmism. Let me explain something to you. Extremist regimes are never extremist overnight. It is by degree that they become extreme. Do you understand that? Let me give you a case in point. We will use the Soviet example. The Russian Revolution occurs. After the Russian Revolution, there are a series of dictators, and there arrives on the scene Stalin, the steel man. Stalin, not overnight, but through a period of time, decides that the government can run things better than individuals. Russia had been self-sufficient in terms of feeding itself, food, great, vast areas of wheat, vast stores of grain, vast herds of animals, and the Russian people were able to feed themselves. Stalin said, I can do better than that. I'm going to have government individuals from the government run those farms. And anyone who opposes us is called a counter-revolutionary, and we'll show those kulaks. I built those farms, said Stalin. They're my farms. And so he sent out tens of thousands of his agents to take over the farms. They stole the land from the farmers, and they let the farmers stay on the land as tenant farmers. Now, what did the farmer do who, prior to this takeover, would take the time to water a crop, live through famines, live through droughts, whatever, raise an animal, feed the animal, take care of the sick animal to bring it to market? The farmer who was now a serf to this state-run farm decided it wasn't worth raising the crops anymore. They were only going to be taken by the bureaucrats in Moscow. He decided that it was better to kill the calf and eat the calf before the calf became a cow, because the bureaucrats in Moscow were going to take the cow, cut it up, and give it to themselves and their friends. Subsequently, Russia fell into a famine. Millions and millions of Russians died. I think the number was 30 million people died under the socialist regime of Stalin. 30 million Russians died from starvation. Starvation, not war. It got so bad that we were sending them wheat from our wheat lands here in the United States of America. Now, what is that lesson? What did I just teach you? Something you didn't learn in school, something you didn't learn in the public schools, something that the bureaucrats in Washington do not want you to know, but that you know very well. I'll ask you a question. Who delivers mail more efficiently, Federal Express, UPS, or the post office? Well, as an example, the post office can't do the job very well. That's a government-run postal service. It's horrendous. And so, therefore, the private sector does a better job in delivering mail. The private sector does a better job in raising cattle, in raising wheat. In other words, if an individual has the profit motive to drive him or her, they do a far more efficient job than does a corrupt, lazy bureaucrat in Sacramento or your state capital or in Washington, D.C. Now, Obama stands for state-run everything. Do you understand what socialism is now? Did you not learn this in school? So I've given you the three reasons that he lost: Ryan, radio, and reasonableness. He lost the Hispanic vote. Even the loyal Cuban Americans turned on him. Why? Because he picked Ryan, not Rubio. Why would he spit in the face of Rubio? Rubio had the best story at that convention. Do you remember it? Do any of you remember Rubio's stirring speech about his father, who was a barman in a hotel, and he had no anger about his father serving in a bar? He said his father knew his time would come, his son's time would come. I was moved by that because he was telling the story of tens of millions of Americans. And what did the old guard Republican Party do? They threw Rubio in the gutter. And consequently, the one Hispanic group that has voted consistently for the Republican Party, that being Cuban Americans, many of them went over to Obama this year. Why? Not the Tea Party, not the conservatives. It was Romney spitting in the face of Rubio. If it had been a Romney-Rubio ticket, he may have had 2 million more votes. I can almost guarantee you would have 2 million more votes. Then it would have been a lot closer as a race, okay? Those are my opinions. You may have other opinions. The phone number here is 1-855-400-7282. 1-855-400-SAVAGE. You can call me from anywhere in the United States. I'm on huge stations. I'd like to hear from you if you have something cogent to add. Today we have a lot of fun things for you on the show because it's time to have a little fun after this grueling 2 years of this campaign. After all, we the people can only take so much. They spent $1 billion to elect the clown again. $1 billion to put the clown back in office? Great. And what is he going to do differently this time? Today, as I said to you, is the day that my book, Train Tracks, was launched. And I'm not going to read the book to you, but I'm going to read you 1 or 2 pages from it because I think that many of you will get a kick out of it, and it will wake you up, and it will make you happy. And I think I'm going to pick out of nowhere about a Hegira from New York, chapter 12. It's 1 page long in Train Tracks, about my first bus ride to Miami when I was a youngster, when I went to Miami for a vacation. I'll start it from Train Tracks. And by the way, listen to me. The book is in the bookstores. I don't sell books on this show. It's in every bookstore in America. Why don't you go out and vote by buying my book? I'll be naked and tell you that. Do you think you should stop buying conservative books and stop listening to conservative radio and suddenly become a socialist because Romney, the non-conservative, lost? The very opposite is true. Only by asserting your conservatism will we ever get a conservative to run. Now, the Republican Party doesn't know this. They're going to draw the exact wrong conclusion again. Okay?